So this is so fun that today, I think this is actually the first time, Payton, that we have had a guest get on a plane to come join Problematic Women, like just for the show. And so I'm like incredibly honored to welcome you, everyone. This is Payton McNabb.
Well, thank you for having me.
It is a joy to have you. You are an ambassador for one of our favorite organizations here at Problematic Women, the Independent Women's Forum, IWF. They do phenomenal work. Mm-hmm. And you are one of really the leading advocates for protecting women-only spaces. And like so many people who are in that space, the Riley Gaineses, all of you folks, you didn't ask for it, but you were thrust into this world.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like, none of us, everyone had a different plan for their life, and then we're all here because of a similar situation. And it's people from all over, so it's not like, it's just crazy to see how big it really is.
Yeah. No, it is. It's both encouraging that there's so many women who are willing to stand up and fight for it, and also discouraging that this issue has affected so many women.
Absolutely.
And our good friend Emma Waters from the Heritage Foundation is back with us. Emma, is this the first time you've joined since we've gone on video?
Yes, it is.
Wow. This is just a big day.
I know,
all
it
around.
really is. It's an incredible studio.
It's an incredible,
It's so cool in person, actually.
Much smaller in reality. We lie.
It's a bit of a hobbit hole experience.
It's a bit of a hobbit hole. But we're here with the tea, so it all fits.
Yes.
The aesthetic and the vibe fits. Well, for all of us joining for the first time, thank you guys for being with us. If you're watching on YouTube, thank you for watching on YouTube. If you're watching on Rumble, we love our Rumble audience. And if you are joining us on Thursday across any podcast platform or later in the week, we so appreciate you guys taking the time to join the show and to sit down with us. So grab yourself a nice cup of tea and join the political conversation as we talk about really the future of this gender identity fight and how it's affected so many women across the United States. This is obviously an issue that we are super passionate about here at Problematic Women, and it's an issue that unfortunately is not going away overnight. We've seen a lot of progress, we've seen a lot of improvement, but the fight is far from over. And so, Payton, you actually had the opportunity to have your story be told in a kind of insanely public way by the President of the United States.
Yes.
And a couple weeks ago, you attended Trump's, it wasn't technically a State of the Union, but he gave an address to a joint session of Congress. It had all the pomp and circumstance of a State of the Union. We talked about it here on the show and kind of broke it down. Go back and listen to that episode if you haven't seen it. But with that, you were one of the guests. Just walk us through that, first off. Like, that's kind of crazy. Like, did the president call you and be like, hey, I'm giving a speech. I'd love to have you there? How did that happen?
Well, kind of. Not him, but the White House did reach out to me just a couple weeks before. And, of course, I was, like, dropping everything to go because I just couldn't believe that I was even getting invited to that. So just getting to be there in general, just getting to be in that room and watching history being made, I think it was one of his best speeches by far, and I think the energy in there was just incredible. So getting to be there in general, but also getting to be a guest with the First Lady and sitting right beside the Second Lady, I mean, it was just insane. I'm still trying to
We have a picture of it on the screen. I mean, Usha Vance always looks phenomenal. I actually really love her style and her color choice. And then you look so classy. I love those. Is it gold buttons down?
Yes.
Yeah.
Very nice touch.
Thank you.
Just looked great.
She is so classy. She is so down to earth, and it was just she was very lovely.
Did you get to chat with her a bit?
Mm-hmm. Yes, she was she was just like genuine.
Yeah.
And it was so nice to see that.
That is really wild. So what was that like when you're sitting there and you know, probably a lot of friends, family members are watching on TV. They're watching the speech. You're waiting for the president to say, and Payton is also here with us today. You stand up and you wave. But what was that like to have the president share your story?
Well, I definitely wasn't expecting to be the first one. I was going to copy whatever the person in front of me did. So I didn't know what to do. But
That's stressful. They didn't brief you on, like, when the president says your name, stand up. No, okay.
They just kind of threw you in there. And I guess they wanted it to be, like, real. So anyway, it turned out good. But just to have a president that, sees the issue for what it is and and thinks my story is important enough to give it that big of a voice. It was so refreshing because I feel like, myself and every other woman in this fight, for the past few years, it's felt like we've just been yelling out and begging and pleading, and no one was listening. So he made these promises during his campaign, and he kept them. And he is, he's passionate about this issue. He knows what a woman is. He cares for women, and it was refreshing, and I'm very, very thankful.
Where are you originally from?
Murphy, North Carolina.
Okay.
Yeah, so the middle of nowhere, for sure. And then I started to go to school at Western Carolina University.
Okay. So for those that didn't catch the president's speech and that maybe don't know your story, take us back to high school. And you were 17.
Mm-hmm.
You were playing volleyball, and your life instantly changed.
Yeah. So I was a 3-sport athlete my whole life. I played volleyball, basketball, and softball.
Wow.
And sports was literally my identity. Like, all of my friends came from sports, all of my trips, memories, everything. It really just shaped who I was, and I'm incredibly thankful I even had the ability to play in the first place. But, that day just changed my life forever. I went into this game. I'd been playing against him for a few years, but of course he didn't hit puberty until men usually tend to do so. So it was always a problem, but it was never really like that noticeable until our last couple of years. And I think COVID did a good job of covering a lot of that up too, because it was super cloudy my first couple of years of high school. So anyway, I went into that game. There was a really young team that year. Me and the other captain, we're both seniors. Again, we knew what this was like, and our coaches were so upset we even had to be in that position, and no one really knew what to do. We felt like our hands were tied, and because really they weren't doing anything wrong. In North Carolina, that was allowed, so we couldn't do anything, and it sucks that we had to wait for something to happen before speaking out, but, I think that's a part of my story and what, the Lord had planned for me, but I went into that game and I tried to be as encouraging as I could. We had to practice differently to prepare for this game, and not because, really just for him. And the whole goal was to just get a hand on it. Our coach didn't even care about running a play. We were just trying to return the ball, and I was trying to be encouraging to the younger girls. They were so scared, and especially after I get knocked out cold for 30 seconds by his spike coming from across the net. And they obviously had to take me out of the game once I came to. I was in a fencing position for about, I don't even know how long.
What's a fencing position?
It's how your body reacts to a brain injury. So you see it a lot in, like, when football players get hit really hard and they have concussions, you'll see them in a fencing position on the court. So it's kind of like the same thing. I don't know what the other term for it is, but yeah, I got rushed off the court. They had to put the freshman setter in for me, and
So the game continued.
Yes.
Did that guy stay in and play the rest of the game? Even after he spiked the ball and hit you in the face?
Yes. So then for a freshman setter to have to come in for the senior setter, she's shaking on the verge of tears, because who wouldn't be? I mean, they just had to watch all that happen. It was so uncomfortable in there, completely silent. There was a scream in the video, and everyone knew it was wrong, but no one knew what to do. So their trainer actually asked me if I knew what just happened to me as soon as I woke up, and my adrenaline was rushing, and I'm like, well, yeah, that boy on y'all's team just hit me in the face. And he was like, oh, he gets me off the court, does a finger test on me, and says I'm all good and can go back into play. And my coach was like, absolutely not. She was just unconscious on the floor.
Yeah.
So thankful for her, because I ended up going to the doctor a few days later, because North Carolina has their concussion protocol, and you have to just stay in dark places, try to sleep, and see if it gets better before you go to the doctor. So we waited a few days. It continued to get worse.
Were you having headaches or?
Yes, and really bad memory loss. My balance was off, and I was just struggling so hard. I was sleeping all day. I had to wear sunglasses like inside and outside. I couldn't drive for a few months. Like
Months.
There's so much that went into it, and there's a lot of like behind the scenes things because of course your brain is your computer for your body. So I have other health issues that have come since then, and it's just incredibly frustrating because it was completely avoidable.
And that was 6 years ago? 5 years ago? How many years now has it been?
It's been a little over 2.
Oh, gosh.
Yes. So
Wow.
this was my senior year of high
Peyton,
school.
you're so articulate for being so young.
Thank you. Thank you. Yeah.
Gosh, it's only been 2 years.
I was
Okay.
17 at the time. So my
Okay.
parents said when you turn 18, you can decide on if you want to speak out or not. And that was a few months later.
Okay.
And I missed the rest of my volleyball season. That was my last volleyball game. I was really depressed because, this was my senior year, my last year. I had the hopes of playing collegiate softball, and, I just, everything ended before it even began, and my parents were really concerned. So they let me play basketball and softball, but of course I did not play like I had before. My coaches were aware. My teammates were aware. I played with like the same girls. We're from a really small school, so I played with the same girls like on every team.
Yeah.
Everyone knew. I couldn't practice the same. Like I had to practice kind of off to the side a few times, but that really helped with my physical therapy, I think. And even the referees knew. Like if I got hit too hard, they would stop the game because like it's hard to explain where I live, but it's just really small. So everyone knows.
Really sweet.
But yeah, so I did, and I've been saying this from the beginning. Like my first time speaking out, I even said I'm currently in my softball season, but I'm just not performing the same way. So it's and that chance to play at a different level was just gone.
Wow. So did you ever have an apology from the student or talk with him after the fact?
No, I definitely never got an apology. He did reach out to me right after I spoke out for the first time, and it kind of blew up. He texted me and said that...
He texted you?
Yeah.
Close.
He texted me on Instagram and said that he was living rent-free in my head. And that's all that he said. And I was just like, actually... No, nothing's living up there because of you.
A lack of remorse in that statement.
Wow.
Yeah, it's sad, for sure.
Do you still have like some health stuff going on because of it?
I do. Of course, I have healed a lot since then, so it's definitely gotten a lot better. But there's still other things that just, like the headaches are really bad. I'm still having a hard time in school. I have to get extra help, which is something that I never had to deal with before, so that's frustrating. And there's just, like I said, the other health problems that just come with it. But for the most part, the head injury has healed a lot, and I'm very thankful for that.
Yeah, that's huge. I'm really glad to hear that.
So what is the emotional processing and like forgiveness journey looks like? Because I can only imagine on the outside, like the level of bitterness and disappointment and all of the emotions that come with that kind of tragic loss that's just totally outside of your control.
Yeah, it was just so upsetting, and I was in a really dark place for a while, and I'm just very thankful I had good friends and family that were there through it all and I have a lot of people praying for me, and I couldn't be more grateful for that because that's the whole reason I've been able to do this. And just knowing that this is a lot bigger than myself, I don't want it to happen. If this happened to my little sister, I would be so upset. So, and if I get blessed enough to have daughters one day, I don't want them to ever think this is a possibility to have a man on the other side of the court. So I knew my time was over, but I knew that if my story could help at least one other girl, then it would be worth it.
Yeah, it's powerful. How have you kind of processed through, because obviously, to Emma's question, like there's the forgiving the man who is the one who spiked the ball, but then there's also all the other kind of adults who are around and the people making the policies at the state level in North Carolina. And
yeah,
have you sort of processed through some of that? And like, how do you go about reconciling, like, wait a second, these are the people that were supposed to be protecting me?
Yeah, no, it's definitely upsetting that the adults in the room were not taken a stand, and that, you know, something tragic had to happen for them to actually accept that it's happening. So it's definitely frustrating. I'm glad that my story helped at least get the bill passed in North Carolina to ban it from happening. But, you know, it, like I said, it shouldn't have to take this to prove a point, and this is on them, and it is their fault, and it's hard to have that forgiveness. But, you know, I like I said, I really do believe it happened. Everything is happening for its reason. So I don't hold anything against, or try at least not to hold anything against anyone.
It's a journey.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Totally. So you're on this recovery process. You're in the journey. You graduate from high school. Obviously, you'd wanted to potentially play softball, you said, in college. That opportunity now, it's not really an option. What was that process like, though, of kind of entering college and recognizing, like, okay, things are looking a little different than I thought, and I have additional challenges, but I'm going to go and I'm going to find my community?
Yeah, it was hard at first. I definitely did not felt like I had a place at my university for the first semester. I felt like, you know, there was no one really in my corner there, and I felt it's just not even to make it so political, but it is, because they've made it that way. And even in my classes, it was just so political, but only one side, and that's it. And just seeing that happen at that campus, which is something that, you know, it's not known for, was really disheartening.
Yeah.
And then by second semester, I ended up finding my community and falling in love with school, and it made things a lot better. But then, of course, like, that also came to an end. But at the time, I found my sorority, and I have some of the best friends in there still, and lifelong friends, and I don't regret joining at all, basically. But I am very disappointed and upset with how things turned out.
Yeah. Let's talk a little bit about that, because so you joined Delta Zeta, right? And like I said, great community, like, super. I was never in a sorority, and a part of me feels like I missed out. It's like, it is that just sweet bond of you have an instant community to plug into.
Yeah.
And it's your first time living away from home, and you need that.
Yeah, no, for sure.
That's a really big deal.
Yeah.
But you shared a video on social media that you took. Was this your freshman year that the incident happened in the bathroom?
Yes, this was last May.
Okay, yeah, let's just go ahead. I think the video speaks for itself. Let's just go ahead and roll that.
What are you doing?
Going to the bathroom.
Why are you in the girls' bathroom?
I'm a trans girl.
But you're not a girl.
Oh, we're doing one of these.
Yeah.
Interesting. Never had this before. I don't know what to say. I'm sorry you feel that way.
Yeah, I pay a lot of money to be safe in the bathroom.
Me too. Excuse me. Rude.
Do you think that's okay?
Okay, so major kudos to you, Payton, because, like, you stayed so calm and cool and collected with that. I'm not sure I would have.
It was hard.
So was this a bathroom in like a classroom building on campus?
This was at the dining hall on campus. So it's a public university, and this is where we always have field trips going in and out, and little kids and little girls are always using that bathroom. So I just, finished my dinner or lunch or whatever, and I went to the bathroom, and I walk out of the stall, and then I see a fully grown man in a dress in there with me, and I was just like, I completely froze. I could not believe that this was happening to me, and that this was even happening on campus. I had no idea. And I thought, like, how hypocritical of me would it be when all I do is advocate for women standing up to this nonsense and telling them not to comply and just smile and act like it's okay and to speak up about it, and how hypocritical would that be of me to just smile at him and walk out. So I thought, I have to tell other girls about this. I'm going to confront him. I'm going to video it for my safety, and also because I don't want, any lies being told about what happened in there. So I videoed it for my safety, because there's been other instances where girls have asked and confronted these men that are invading our bathrooms, and they've gotten like attacked, and I don't want that to happen to me. So I just asked, and I thought it was pretty polite conversation. I thought I tried to be calm, and my voice was really shaky, but I was trying to just get through it, because I just couldn't, I seriously just could not believe this was happening. And he later to find out, he's almost 30 years old, and he's in this public girls' bathroom, and I've never seen him before. I didn't know if he was a student or not. And again, it's a public university. Like, how is anyone supposed to know? Anyone could walk in there, and there's no way of me knowing the intentions. So I just trusted my gut, and I wasn't just gonna act like it's okay.
Yeah. Did you feel a level of PTSD encountering him after what happened in high school?
I think so. They asked me that at first, and I was kind of like, I don't know, but I really do think that played a role in it, because this is not something that I would just do. Like, this is kind of out of character, and I've never done that before. So I was just like, something just snapped in me. I thought about, the fact that it was happening to myself, but also the fact that, like I said, there's little girls in and out of that bathroom all the time. Yeah. And that's just not okay at all.
Okay. Yeah. So you posted the video, and then what happened?
Yeah, I posted the video to raise awareness, because I couldn't believe that this was happening on our campus, and a lot of girls couldn't either. I had so many of them reach out and thank me for doing that, and saying that they would have done the same, because they didn't know it was happening either. And anyway, after that happened, I get a call from the school the next day. They're concerned about my safety, because it's getting blown up online everywhere. Okay. People are trying to find where I live, and saying that they're gonna
pushback online. Like, people are angry that you.
Yes.
Wow. Okay.
Yes. People are.
Oh wow.
Well, they're very loud. People that don't agree. I definitely had a lot of people that did agree that were just telling me, but of course it looked like the opposite way. Yeah. And they were trying to find me and do the same thing to me, and like all this stuff. It was so crazy. But I actually had to get campus police to monitor my dorm until I moved home earlier than I was originally supposed to. And again, I had really good friends who were there for me during that, because I felt like I couldn't even leave my dorm. So it was scary, and it was like absolutely insane. But also the next day I get a call from Delta Zeta Nationals, and they want to set up a meeting right away to discuss this situation. And I was so confused, because I was like, this has nothing to do with Delta Zeta. I don't understand why you're getting involved. He's not affiliated with the sorority. I don't even know who this guy is. Like, y'all don't know who this guy is. Yeah. It was crazy. So I and then we got those meetings set up, which obviously didn't go well.
What happened during those meetings? What did they say? Did they give you a heads up of like, hey, these are our concerns. This is what we're going to be talking about?
Well, they told me that there was a few reports within my chapter about the situation, and that they needed to address it.
Of yours who were reporting to them?
Girls that were in my actual sorority. So, so I had to go and have this meeting with a whole panel, and then the person who was in charge of the whole thing and was running all the meetings was actually a man, and I was so confused by that. Also, I was like, why are you doing this?
This is a women's sorority.
It's like the whole thing. Well, anyway, those meetings didn't go very well. I had two different hearings, and they basically told me they told me to apologize. I refused, because I'm not sorry.
Yeah.
And
apologize for taking a video. Like,
yes, I violated the bullying policy. Oh my word. And I made them look bad, and there was just like a whole list of just how horrible it was what I did. So I, of course, argued all of those, and they didn't they didn't agree at all. I think the panel was definitely, the first time I appealed it because I believed that the panel was pretty biased, but then the next time I think they just loaded it up with biased members. So, you know, it didn't go well. I refused to apologize. They asked me if I would do it again. And, you know, I don't know, like, probably. I hope that it doesn't happen again. And then they also offered me to take an online course to know how to post online.
Are you serious?
And I was like, I'm not doing that. Like, I don't care. Like, I know I'm a part of an organization, but that doesn't take away my First Amendment right.
Yeah.
Like, I have...
Especially you weren't posting, like, as a member of Delta Zeta, you never associated.
Were the
Exactly.
news stories, like, using your sorority affiliation, or...
I think it was just because people who were attacking me from on campus or online were all bringing up the fact that I was in a sorority. So I think that's what they based it on.
Yeah.
Because I never was, like you said, I wasn't like as a member.
Yeah.
I just encountered this in the bathroom.
Well, and it's so disappointing too for sorority that's all about the sisterhood and fellowship and standing up for fellow women who find themselves in compromising, dangerous situations, that the first thing that they would do is criticize you for it and not stand with you and not support you. That I think just ultimately looks so bad on them in this situation.
Yeah, exactly. Like, this is an organization that was built on sisterhood and empowering women and lifting them up, and that's just not what happened at all. They sided with a mentally ill man who was invading a woman's space, and that's just so crazy to me. I will never understand that.
So did the sorority, like, give you an ultimatum of, like, apologize, do you get kicked out, or, like, how did that happen?
It was just I just was really honest with them and upfront. Like, I even told them before I even joined, because when you join a sorority, they have to learn, like, everything about you, and they deep dive into all your socials. And it's not like I was hiding what I already did, because I was already an advocate for women's spaces in their sports, and they let me in anyway. But ever since the beginning, they were, like, mad that I was there because I was still advocating. And I told them, I was very frank, like, I'm not going to stop what I'm doing or filter myself just to be a part of an organization that, you know, this is something that you could be capitalizing on, you could be lifting up. This would look great for your sorority and in women empowerment. And they took the other road, and that's unfortunate for them. But I'm not gonna fake like what I believe or change how I do things just to be a part of something that doesn't want me.
Yeah. So you're no longer a part of a sorority?
No longer.
Wow.
But you were sitting beside the vice president's wife, so
not
I
a
think
bad
you know
trait.
who the real winner is here.
Yeah, I think it's okay.
I probably would take the same option if offered to me too. So,
Yep. Not a bad trade. Not a bad trade.
No, not at all.
Well, and unfortunately, this isn't just a Delta Zeta problem. Kappa Kappa Gamma has had a similar situation.
Yeah.
Phi Mu has had a similar situation. And it sort of is at a point where it almost feels like sororities are in a way the next great battlefield on this issue, because increasingly, especially under Trump and some of the executive actions he's taken, there's positive movement on the sports side. We're not there yet, but there's positive movement.
Yes, for sure.
But a lot of people just haven't really thought about that sorority issue. And in many ways, it's a little more personal, because you have sorority houses. And so if you have a man who wants to, on that side, which was the case in some of these situations there where things have really blown up with these sororities, is there's been a man who's said, I want to join this sorority, and they say, oh, okay, you identify as a woman, we'll allow it. But then you have a guy in a house with all these girls, and it's just really insane.
yeah. Well, and also, so I was never in a sorority either, so this is a total outsider. But sororities are intense. Women can be very unkind. And so in the best cases, you have sororities of women who, like, are encouraging one another and holding each other accountable. But regardless, it's a lot of women living together and a part of a group together. I it's not uncommon for unkind things to be said.
Yeah.
So it seems doubly interesting to me that men joining would just be like, oh yeah, we have no problems with this. Like, yes, you're a woman just like me. That just doesn't seem like that just like seems so like just like a total like whiplash situation where you're like everything you stand for, everything you talk about, even the unkind things you say, right? Like none of that would set you up to just be totally chill with a man joining.
Yeah.
So is this mostly national pressure, or do you think that there's something happening even within like the local chapters where women are like either feel pressured or like want to accept this for some reason?
Mm-hmm. I think probably both. I think it's kind of gotten, like you said, I mean, this is huge. This is happening in every sorority, on all kinds of different campuses. And I've had a bunch of people just reach out to me already and telling me like similar situations that happened with them. So it's definitely happening. But like you said, like sororities are so, like you have to just be so careful. And I think that they try to hide a lot of things. So they've definitely, no, you feel like you can't speak out because they will turn against you, and it's just it's a weird situation to be put in. So I understand why not a lot of girls have spoke out about it, because they make it to where it feels impossible. And so I think a lot of it is probably local. I know that a lot of people in nationals, I feel like they also just feel pressured to go on this agenda that's just not popular anymore, and I think that they're just having a hard time moving past that. So it's sad, but it definitely is happening all over.
Yeah. Well, it's been wild to me. Like even the Kappa Kappa Gamma situation was 2 alumni that got kicked out because they spoke out saying, we oppose you all admitting a man. And it also gets to the heart of, I mean, these sororities, it's not just while you're in college. Like, it's a lifelong community. It's supposed to be a lifelong community of sisterhood that kind of has your back. My grandmother was super involved in her sorority. And even when she retired and was in her 70s, like, her main community in her retirement community was sisters who were also in that sorority. And it's like, man, that's beautiful. It's such a gift. And yet now we see sororities that are literally kicking out those alumni that are like in their 50s, 60s, 70s because they disagree with a man entering that space. It's really tragic. And I'm hopeful. I'm like, okay, we've made so much progress on the women's sports front. Sunlight's the greatest disinfectant, and that's why I'm so glad, Payton, that you're telling your story.
Thank you.
It's a really, really big deal. Well, and I do want to mention, the very pro-LGBT organization GLAAD has really come after you. They've come after IWF. So IWF has, they have issued like a cease and desist order or directive to GLAAD. And it's something that it's so important to kind of be direct on these things. And so I do want to push anyone just to the great work that you're doing at IWF. And if anyone wants to just get more plugged in with yourself, with the work that so many other women like yourself are doing, check out iwf.org, and you can keep up with just really what is the brunt of the fight in this issue. I feel like IWF is really at the tip of the spear on this.
Yeah, absolutely. They've been championing these women, these stories and women in general from the beginning. And they've really just done a great job with really elevating these stories. So the cease and desist and all that is just absolutely insane. But again, it's just these people that run on not the truth. Yeah. Like, they just run on a bunch of lies. And it's like, it's sad that that's what their whole organization is built off of, is a bunch of lies. But that tells a lot more about them than it does us.
Yeah, it's true. And it's comforting because like this is a very black and white issue. This is a very clear, like, there are things that are true, and like a man cannot become a woman is just one of those staple truths. And so I imagine that's incredibly encouraging for you and others that you work with, where you're not debating something that like is nuanced, right? Like there's a clear right answer here. And I imagine that's like, okay, so like I can't stand up because I know that this is true. This is like clearly displayed in nature. Yeah. And that just has to be so encouraging on your end, because you're like, oh, like all of these people are trying to sue and make, well, I must be saying something right. Like just keep on from there.
Yeah, no, it's definitely encouraging to have like the actual reality on your side. So
It tends to help.
yeah.
I love that. Reality is on your side.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Well, this fight over gender and what is gender, it's expanding into so many places. And Emma, you flagged this for me because you have just recently started a new role at the Heritage Foundation on our tech policy team.
Yes.
And so you're looking at a lot of areas of kind of this intersection of, okay, family and tech and how all those things come together. And one of those ways is IWF and our good friend Elon Musk.
Yes, well, IVF and Elon Musk,
IVF.
not IWF.
See, wrong acronyms are in my head.
It frequently happens. It's really hard. I even autocorrect sometimes from IVF to IWF, and I'm like, no.
Wrong acronym.
Not what we're going for.
IVF. There we go. Let's make sure that's
Yes,
clear.
IVF, yes.
In vitro fertilization.
Yes. Yeah. So this is something that has come up recently that really stood out to me as sort of an example of like reverse gender ideology taking place in our reproductive technologies. And part of the reason that I transitioned from our DeVos team to our tech policy team is really because I was covering bioethics and family policy, infertility, things in that space. And I realized that increasingly all of these discussions are happening in technology.
Wow.
All of the advancements that we see, the arguments that we see is increasingly moved toward AI and advanced genetic selection. And so really to tackle these issues going forward, it would require a good knowledge and orientation in our tech policy world, because increasingly everything from human procreation and development, we're learning how to navigate those issues with technology. But with Elon Musk in particular, his son, who was born a biological son, now identifies as a woman, Vivian. And so one of the things that actually really radicalized Elon Musk was this gender transition on the part of his son. And he says very openly that the woke mind virus killed his son, that his son like just no longer exists as he used to because of this. And that's really, I think, galvanized Musk's efforts with the Trump admin. But recently, his son, who now goes by Vivian, tweeted something that I thought was just absolutely heartbreaking. So I'll read the tweet very briefly, but his son says, "My assigned sex at birth was a commodity that was bought and paid for. So when I was feminine as a child, then turned out to be transgender, I was going against the product that was sold. The expectation of masculinity that I had to rebel against all my life was a monetary transaction." And then he just emphasizes a monetary transaction. How is this legal? And so what Vivian, in this case, is talking about is that in vitro fertilization, outside of the typical process of creating an embryo in a lab, there's increasingly something called pre-implantation genetic testing or genetic screening technology that allows doctors to assess an embryo at that earliest stage of development to see what the sex of the embryo is, any potential health concerns, and even factors such as personality or intelligence. So these are very advanced genetic screens.
Factors of intelligence can be.
So
That's
like
creepy.
they can compare embryos and say this one has the genetic makeup, the genetic composition that predetermines them towards a higher IQ.
Wow.
But they can even do it for things like athletic ability in many cases, or even personality. Does this embryo have the genetic makeup to be more kind? Or more competitive, or more ruthless? Like it can go any direction.
It sounds like something out of a sci-fi novel.
Yes, it sounds like the movie Gattaca, right? 1997, probably like way before most. I didn't actually watch it until one of our superiors was like, "You should watch this movie. It's everything you're working on."
This is your life,
right? But like what happened in Elon Musk's case, right, is like he used IVF and genetic selection for most of his children. So what his son here, who goes by Vivian, is referring to is the fact that Elon Musk created him through IVF and then selected the embryo that was a boy, intentionally choosing that boy embryo over any other embryo that had been created. And so now his son, having come to maturity and really struggled with his own gender ideology, in part is pointing back to those early moments of conception and saying like, I never, like, I was chosen, I was purchased using highly advanced, highly costly technology. And I never felt like I had a say to sort of develop into the person that I was going to be, right? Like, there was no like natural development. There was a choice that you paid for.
Yeah.
And so now seeing his son speak out and really tie that to a lot of things in his life, from gender confusion, into a very broken relationship with his father now, just really strikes me, frankly, just given how common this technology is becoming. I think that similar to some of the fights we've seen in the gender ideology space, we're going to start seeing children who were created through these technologies, who were selected for the traits that they had, start to speak out and say, like, hey, there's something very wrong about this situation. Like, you chose me on this conditional expectation I would be a certain way, and what happens if I'm not? Like, do you love me any less? Am I any less worthy? Just like incredibly heartbreaking situation that I think we're starting to perpetuate on a national level.
It's an interesting like moral wrestle because those children that are created through in vitro fertilization, they're still God's creation. They are still fully man or fully woman.
Right.
They still have an inherent value and worth. Like, they're no less human. And there is that element that it's like, oh, there is something that feels very wrong about sort of like designing a child.
Yeah.
Like, we shouldn't have humans. It feels like too much power for us to be handed.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, and it's tricky. So 75% of all fertility clinics in the U.S. offer this kind of testing, and 73% of them allow it for sex. And I, like, growing up, one of the things we always talked about was how unjust it was that China had sex-based abortions, and that they were choosing a certain sex and then getting rid of the other babies, right, aborting the other babies, and how horrible that was.
Yeah.
And if you believe that life begins at conception, or even just like the idea of like a fertilized embryo is a distinct and human being, part of the human species, right?
Yeah.
Then you have to ask yourself, like, what are we doing now that we're actually choosing sex from embryos, right? And we're choosing which ones are implanted and which ones are destroyed. And it's a really tricky line used, because you'll hear some of these advanced genetic selection companies like Orchid say, oh, we've healed your embryos. We've given you the best embryos, the healthiest embryos. But in reality, they're just choosing some. They're picking winners and losers, right? They're rating them, they're assigning a score, and then they're saying, okay, these embryos should have a chance at life, and these embryos aren't good enough. And they're keeping some and getting rid of others. And even if you, don't believe life begins at conception, I think there's reason to pause there and just be like, I don't know, like, is this how we should treat like human life at its earliest stages?
Yeah. A lot of pause.
Yeah. A lot of pause.
Tell us, Emma, how with your new role at Heritage, we're going to switch gears here in a second and just having a little fun.
Yeah.
But tell us, how do we keep up with your work, with what you're doing on this issue? Because you have joined us before to talk about this, but I feel like you are like full steam ahead hitting this issue so hard right now.
Yes. Okay. So first on Twitter, EML Waters is where I post a lot of the work that we're doing. But then beyond that, following the Heritage page, I have a lot of publications that will be linked on our page there. So those would be the two best ways. Yeah.
Okay. I love it. All right. Well, speaking of technology, and we're all using it increasingly, I want to take a second here and play a little bit of a game / ask some fun questions around our good friend ChatGPT / AI. So, like, real quick side story. My sister recently just introduced my parents to ChatGPT.
That's so funny.
And like, their minds are just blown by how you can use it, because my dad had like a document that he needed to quickly kind of sort through for work, and he was like stressed about getting through it. My sister was like, oh, just put it in ChatGPT and have it summarize it. And so she did it for him, and like, you know, it took 18 pages and brought back like 3 like nicely succinctly summarized. It's like, what? So anyway, this world that we're all living in, I am increasingly using ChatGPT for like research on things, and it's a good
Writing
little
the script
helper.
for the show.
I haven't used it to script this show yet, but I'll be fully honest, there may come a day.
Yeah.
This show is produced
TBD.
by ChatGPT, featuring Virginia.
I mean, it's helpful for ideas, I think,
totally.
on that side. So, 3 questions. How often do you use ChatGPT? What is the best question you have ever asked ChatGPT? And then I'll save this last one. We'll do that one last. But let me start with you, Payton. How often do you use ChatGPT, and what do you think is the best question you've ever asked it?
I'm definitely increasingly using it as well. It just makes things a lot easier.
Yep.
And honestly, it's probably not good, but it does help. I get it to help me like word different things probably the right way, because I don't. Or just like really explain things and lay it out. So it really helps with like literally everything.
Yeah, it really helps with everything.
Super nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like in the past month, I have now maybe start using it like once a week. I think the most effective question that I have asked is for its help with vacation planning and with vacation research, because it's literally a travel agent.
That is so true.
It's amazing.
That's brilliant.
We have been doing research for my dad's birthday, and like we're looking for something highly specific, and so you can put in like, I'm looking for this kind of Airbnb in this area at this elevation even, and it'll like pop out like this fits your criteria. It's fantastic.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's great.
Yeah, I've planned a whole bachelorette trip with it.
Did you really?
Yeah.
I love it. You're a travel agent.
Awesome. I know.
ChatGPT.
You're everything, ChatGPT. I get a Valentine's Day card for that.
Oh gosh.
That's true.
So true. Yeah, I think I've started using it probably a couple of days a week at this point. Yeah. I use it most often in my research for work.
Okay.
Especially it basically takes like what would take 20 Google searches and can condense it down into one answer.
Yep.
So you obviously always have to check your results, because it will frequently say things where you're like, I know that's actually not true. And then you have to like correct it.
Yeah.
But I'll have it I'll have it summarize documents, or like, hey, can you give me an overview of what this law is, especially laws in other countries.
Oh gosh.
So like I needed to analyze a German law that I could only find all in German, and I don't speak German. And so I was like, ChatGPT, can you summarize this for me in English? And so it did, which was like a huge resource, like breaking the language barrier in research. But I also, so that's like probably one of like the best ways. It's like just amazing. A research assistant.
I love that. Okay, so then to the last question, given the advancements that we've seen in AI technology, do you think that your job that you currently have will still exist in 50 years, or will AI have taken it over?
It's such a fun question. The world will look very different in 50 years regardless. But a big thing that we're really fighting for in the Tech Policy Center is how we can promote a human-centered AI experience, because ultimately AI is a tool, an incredibly advanced, really cool tool. Yeah. And it should be used as a tool to support human flourishing and to support the things we love. And so in 50 years, whatever iteration of AI, ChatGPT 57, whatever that we're on at that point, my like goal is, the goal is that it's like actually just like a really effective research assistant. And so it frees you up to do more of the things that you love. So more time sitting with people, hearing their stories, and then even like plugging that in. Okay, what do we know of laws? How would we frame this in a law that's good? How would we adjust what we currently have? And frankly, it'll be way more advanced than even that. But like basically free you up to have the human interactions that you want and that you love, and have AI as a tool do a lot of the other work for you.
Yeah. I like that perspective.
Yeah.
It's healthy.
Yeah.
Yeah, that is healthy.
Yeah.
I was over here thinking it was going to take over.
Well, you may still be correct, but nature usually snaps back. We thought gender ideology would take over, and here you are today. So,
So true.
I mean, on the college side, I am like, how are you navigating that in college? Because I'm sure professors are telling you, like, don't use ChatGPT to write your papers. And I'm sure you have some classmates who maybe don't always follow that.
Yeah, they have these like different softwares and stuff where they can run your papers through and see how much AI was used or plagiarism was used. Apparently, I don't know.
So they
That's
do.
what they say anyway.
Okay, on the reverse side, I uploaded a paper that I had written a while ago, and to see like, oh, like is it gonna like before ChatGPT was a thing, it did not use any AI at all, and I uploaded it, and it was like this paper was 30% written by AI, and I was like, are you kidding me? This is like so inaccurate.
That's so true.
And then I was like,
be a compliment though. You're like, oh, it thinks I'm so
I know.
smart.
I was like, is this a compliment? Is it an insult? Like you write like a machine? Like I don't know what to do with this.
That's hilarious.
No, that's true.
I'm thinking that the field of journalism, it will, like, there's no way AI is not going to affect it. I don't think it's going to become, like, ChatGPT is not going to be the journalist of the future. And though it is possible that I think we'll see newsrooms continue to shrink because of AI, because if you can have one person essentially managing an AI technology to craft pieces, then maybe they're just going through and editing them and, you know, uploading. So instead of needing 20 people in a newsroom, maybe now you only need 10.
What's so sad about that is the loss of all of the perspective.
Yeah.
Like journalists bring so many unique, experiences and flavors.
And that's where I'm like, I don't think the op-ed side will go away, that opinion, that column side, but straight news could, because you can decently accurately, you do have to fact check, but decently accurately, you can tell AI to write something straight fact, check your sources, leave out all bias, just give me the facts. And if you check them, often you have to tweak a couple things, but usually it's pretty accurate.
Wow.
Yeah, you definitely do have to say like unbiased though, because something I have noticed is like, especially when I'm trying to tweak something that I've written, it'll like totally change it up and be the opposite side. And I'm like, I'm not asking for your opinion.
But even the subtle
which is
influence
scary.
is so interesting.
Yeah.
In playing around and testing it out, like I and colleagues have just like, presented different things. Like I wrote an essay, and somewhere in the essay it was complimenting something President Trump had done, and it removed all references to President Trump that were complimentary and just took them all out.
That's crazy.
Or like if you write about abortion, I've had friends who were testing it out and they're like, yes, like abortion like removes like a fetus from a woman's body, and then you have to respond and you're like, no, like what is a human like you like go through, and eventually it'll say like, no, like abortion kills a human being, but you have to really fight it. And so like the thing that I think is even like frankly the thing that is most concerning is not the like obvious bias where they're like all trans people are, you know, whatever, but like when they just remove information without telling you, so as to like suggest something very different than what your like original context was trying to say. And same just in researching answers that they give you, like the bigger question is not what are they saying, but what are they not saying.
Good questions.
Very true.
Wow. We live in such a wild world. It's a good day to be alive, though.
Yeah.
And to be fighting for so many amazing issues. Peyton, like you're doing, tell us how we keep up with your work. If we want to follow you on social media. And I don't know, you think you now have somewhat of a public presence online.
Yes. Yeah. You can find me on Twitter or on X, and I don't even know what my username is. I think it's just Payton McNabb. But also on all IWF, IWV, everything. They cover all of it so well. So anything, if you want to know what's going on, they've got it up there.
Amazing. Give us a quick, like, what's next for you? You're still in school?
Well, I'm actually not in school.
Okay.
I was under investigation.
Okay.
I totally missed this earlier.
Yeah, give us a quick little
not to like keep it going, but
wrap back.
Just really quick. I was under investigation for 9 months under my university because the man that I confronted reported me for violating Title IX. And anyway, that was like a really long trial. I'm very thankful I had the resources to be able to fight that, because not not a lot of college kids would have that, and I wouldn't if I wasn't already in a different position. So it worked out in the end, but you know, this was a long battle that took months and a lot of time and a lot of fighting, because all the odds were against me, especially when they're going into a case like this. They don't present this unless they know like they've got a good chance, because it'll look bad the other way. But you know, I had common sense and reality on my side, and I didn't. He was trying to get me charged of sexual harassment and everything, and I'm thankful I had a really good attorney, because ultimately we prevailed, which was earlier in this year. So I won that case. I didn't think I was going to, but I did. And So now I'm just taking this semester off. I'm definitely going to transfer somewhere. I just don't know where.
Fair.
Seems like a very conclusion to draw.
So I'm looking at schools right now.
Okay.
But yeah, so
Okay.
I'm not in school at the moment for this semester, but I'm almost done.
Yeah, another season, a new university. That's exciting. A new path ahead.
Yes, I'm really hopeful that
Yeah.
hopefully it'll be better somewhere else. I did 2 years in high school, and then I did that 1 year last year, so I don't have that much time left. So I just need to get it done.
Good for you.
Nice.
Well done, Payton.
Thank you.
Thank you for joining us today. Thank you for your
Absolutely.
willingness to share your story.
Absolutely.
Truly, that takes a lot of courage to be
Thank you.
someone that is willing to give your time, to give your resources to this fight. That's no small thing.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. And we will see you all right back here next week.